Sure, we all get that wrestling is a wild and risky sport, but one thing is clear, it's not life-ending. Still, there have been pretty rare instances where WWE wrestlers have ended up causing real-life casualties both in and out of the ring. It's not the usual scenario, but stick with us in this video as we discuss WWE wrestlers who have killed in real life.
Jumping right into it, we've got Billy Jack Haynes, whose connection to murder happened way after his wrestling days. Billy Jack Haynes entered into the wrestling world way back in the 1980s, when he was 28 years old. He began training at Stu Hart's famous Dungeon School, learning the ropes alongside Bruce Hart and others. He kicked off wrestling as Billy Jack in the Pacific Northwest Territory, but had to tweak his wrestling name a little when Tom Laughlin threatened to sue him. So, Billy Jack ditched the nickname Billy Jack and became Billy Jack Haynes instead, just adding a bit of flair to his persona, you know. From there, Haynes became a bit of a wrestling wanderer, taking his skills to different places like Florida and the Pacific Northwest. Whether he was fighting with Rip Oliver or chasing championship dreams in championship wrestling from Florida, Haynes always brought his A-game. He even had a run in world-class championship wrestling for a while, but the big leagues came calling when Haynes landed a gig in the World Wrestling Federation. There, he fought with many legends like Randy Savage and Hercules Hernandez, making a name for himself in epic matches. Who could forget the Battle of the Full Nelsons at WrestleMania 3? It was a wild match, with Haynes battling it all in the ring, chains and all. Of course, no wrestling career is complete without a bit of drama, and Haynes had his fair share. When he left the WWE, there were a lot of stories, with some saying he walked out, and others claiming he got fired. And then there was that surprising turn to the dark side in Oregon, where Haynes went from fan favorite to villain, keeping fans on their toes. Haynes' wrestling journey took him to WCW as well, where he took on the persona of Black Blood, playing the role of an executioner. In the 2000s, Haynes played an important role in a major legal battle against WWE. He was at the forefront of a class action lawsuit, accusing the company of neglecting to protect its wrestlers from traumatic brain injuries. However, the case hit a roadblock and was eventually dropped back in 2016. But through the ups and downs, Haynes left a lasting legacy in the world of wrestling. His battles, both in and out of the ring, showed his strength, skill, and determination. And while he may have retired in 1996, his impact on the sport lives on, with fans still talking about the legendary Billy Jack Haynes. Through all the twists and turns of his wrestling career, Billy Jack Haynes definitely made his mark in the ring, showing off his strength and skills. But after that, he kind of faded from the scene until 2024. At 70, things took a serious turn for Haynes. He ended up in the hospital and got caught up in some pretty heavy stuff, like accusations related to his wife's murder. He found himself in the news again after a tense standoff in Portland, Oregon, causing a stir in the neighborhood. When the cops finally got into his place, they made a grim discovery. Haynes' 85-year-old wife was found dead from an apparent gunshot. In the aftermath of the tragedy, WWE Hall of Famer Jake the Snake Roberts didn't hold back on his podcast. He straight up said he wasn't shocked by Haynes' arrest, talking about how he felt like there were a few screws loose. Roberts also admitted he never felt safe around him, adding another layer to the whole situation. To add another layer of complexity, Haynes openly confessed to witnessing a horrifying event back in 1987, the brutal murders of 3 boys left on railroad tracks in Arkansas. This case remains unsolved to this day. Haynes also revealed that he was caught in some shady business, drug trafficking, at the time of the murders, which kept him from saying anything about it up until 2018. He was also wrestling for WWF during this period, which also likely added to the pressure of staying silent. The Portland police have confirmed that Haynes is currently under police custody and is anticipated to be transferred to jail once he receives treatment for a separate medical issue unrelated to the homicide. The situation remains ongoing as authorities continue their investigation into this heartbreaking incident. Now, let's talk about Jose Gonzalez, who killed another wrestler, and it wasn't even in the ring. Before all that, Gonzalez was deep in the wrestling scene since 1972. He worked not only as a wrestler, but also as a booker for the World Wrestling Council. Plus, he also did some wrestling for the International Wrestling Association. The guy was no slouch, far from it in fact. He won the Puerto Rico heavyweight title a whopping 12 times between 1977 and 2001. Plus, he held the WCW television title 5 times from 1986 to 1991. But eventually, he got tired and left wrestling in 2006, to dip his toes into politics. When he started off his wrestling journey back in Chicago, Gonzalez was known as the Prophet. Then, in 1972, he made his move to the big leagues, joining the WWF. When he went back to Puerto Rico to throw down Capital Sports Promotions, he switched things up big time, wearing a mask and becoming the Invader. If you're wondering why he wore the mask, well, he didn't want his mom to find out he was in the wrestling business, so he covered his face. As the Invader, he teamed up with Roberto Soto as Invader 2, and later with Johnny Rivera as Invader 3. Together, they made waves as a mid-card tag team in the WWF during the early 1980s, before saying goodbye to the Federation in 1984. Gonzalez then headed back to Puerto Rico, where he continued his wrestling journey with the International Wrestling Association and the World Wrestling Council. In 2011, he made quite a comeback to the ring, donning his old persona as Invader 1. The following year, in 2012, Gonzalez took on a new role as the corporate director of the World Wrestling League, and in 2015, he received a major honor when he was inducted into the Salón de los Inmortales. But Gonzalez wasn't ready to leave the wrestling scene just yet. In 2019, at the impressive age of 73, he stepped back into the ring to show he still had what it takes. One notable appearance came in 2022 at an IWA event in Humacao, Puerto Rico. There, he crossed paths with his old foe, Chicky Star, serving as guest referee for a tag team showdown. And on April 30th, 2022, at the Juicio final event in Humacao, Puerto Rico, with the likes of Savio Vega and Chicky Star by his side as guest referees, he won over Manny Furno to snag the World Championship. It turned out to be his final match, wrapping up his wrestling journey that August. Unfortunately, Gonzalez's name is more often associated with a tragic incident than his career in the wrestling world. He's probably more known for causing the death of fellow wrestler Bruiser Brody in a locker room in Puerto Rico. Gonzalez reportedly stabbed him. The incident happened in 1988 while Gonzalez was working backstage on the show. Gonzalez faced charges because he was connected to the incident. But interestingly, he was acquitted in 1989 after the jury determined he acted in self-defense. Plus, the knife involved in the stabbing was never found, adding to the mystery surrounding the case. Dutch Mantell, who was present during the stabbing, shared some insights into the trial. He mentioned that no one appeared on behalf of Brody during Gonzalez's trial, which may have contributed to the acquittal. Although Mantell and Tony Atlas were called to testify, their subpoenas didn't arrive until 10 days after the trial ended. Mantell also remembered feeling a tense atmosphere that night as he followed Brody into the locker room. According to Mantell, a doctor at the scene informed him that Brody had suffered a punctured lung from the stabbing. Unfortunately, by the time paramedics arrived, it had been 25 minutes since Brody was stabbed. Mantell also recounted witnessing Gonzalez leaving the locker room, passing by the injured Brody, and seemingly leaving to change his clothes at home. He mentioned that Brody underwent 2 surgeries at a hospital in Puerto Rico that night, but tragically passed away due to his injuries due to blood loss. But here's the twist. There were rumors suggesting that Brody may have bullied Gonzalez on various occasions, but no concrete evidence has surfaced over the years. Initially charged with first-degree murder, Gonzalez was later acquitted in 1989 after the jury determined that he acted in self-defense. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next ones.